Digital twinning is a huge part of our reality capture group of what we do for the architects when they're going to renovate a building. But we obviously have the capabilities to take that to a whole nother level with the metaverse or even this digital twinning if people are going to use it for other purposes.
Welcome to the Optimized Workplace. Today, I welcome CEO of Cadnetics, Jim Mauler. Cadnetics is a single solution from start to finish for the entire building construction industry, providing technology-driven services that support the entire building construction lifecycle of any project. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you. The work that you're doing is really impactful and exciting. So I'm going to ask you to take a few minutes to just explain to our audience and our listeners, what exactly is Cadnetics?
Yes, so Cadnetics is a full service solutions provider for the entire building construction industry. We mainly provide production support services to have our clients, and our clients are architects, engineers, contractors, subcontractors, owners. So the whole team that goes into getting the building built, designed, and then maintained afterwards. We help every one of those people. And we have services that plug in. So we have 4 main divisions: a reality capture group, which is called Reality Capture Services, which is all the laser scanning of buildings that we do across the country. We have a design support services group that does all the design support services with modeling, construction drawings, permit drawings, space planning, all for the designers, mainly the architects and interior designers. Then we have a virtual construction services group that focuses on the pre-construction of the BIM modeling, coordination, fabrication drawings, shop drawings type services to mainly a lot of the subs that support the contractors. And then we have a visualization services group that does all the nice, pretty high renderings, animations, simulations type services.
So some of you may be listening saying, okay, Fran, what in the world does Cadnetics have to do with a well-being workspace or, healthy buildings or anything in that domain? Everybody doesn't even play in that domain. So what can this conversation be about? But I think what Jim's work does, he touches so many different pieces of a built construction that we live and work in each and every day. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, Jim. When you take a step back, you touch so many different people and so many different types of businesses. You mentioned architects, you mentioned the actual constructors themselves, you mentioned the occupants. There's so many different people that you touch. What do you see as kind of the next iteration of design and where the building construction industry is going, particularly around this idea of clean energy, and sustainability of workspaces?
Yes, I think talking to a couple of the furniture reps that I deal with, and even the architects, obviously the pandemic has changed a lot. People are now creating amenity suites in their buildings to help, which was a big. We're actually moving our office in 2 weeks, and that was the big. We're downsizing because we're now national and we're in 14 states. So I don't have a local office anymore. So my people are spread out across the country working from home. And a lot of the people we want to hire, that's what they prefer. So it's providing those environments that you need for your people at home that's obviously productive and they can actually have a good work environment in their house, to having the flex spaces and the hybrid spaces in your office. So we're seeing a lot of repurposing of office buildings with our clients that are putting amenity suites in. I just talked to a client that owns a lot of properties. He's building in Pittsburgh. He has 7 of them now, because you have the Reguses and Industriuses of the world, right, which are mainly for startups and temp quick, and they're expensive, but and then you get a room or whatever. And then you have the full-blown 5-year leases, right? That you typically, but there was never an in-between. So what I saw was a missing gap, is that in-between for people like me and other companies that want that flexibility. They don't want to, go to a 5-year lease not knowing how many people they're going to have, because even we've had 5 people in Pittsburgh move outside of Pittsburgh because they could stay on and work with us. So, out of the 20 some people we had in Pittsburgh, 5 of them moved out of state. because they could. So you see a lot of people moving around and doing that. So obviously, sustainability and people going to lead design, all that stuff is so important for these buildings, for energy, efficiency, those type of things. So you're seeing a lot of effort going into, and something you and I talked about, Fran, was just the ergonomics in different facilities, whether it's your office, your home, a hotel, or a Regis or Industrious, having the proper work environments and paying attention to those, since people spend a lot of time sitting behind a desk.
Yeah, I think that you hit on a lot of hot buttons. The point around amenity spaces and making things so they're much more modular, if you will, that you can transform a space from a conference room to a small office to actually a large scale ballroom if needed. You're looking at spaces being able to be transformational and much more user friendly, because again, the footprint that many of these companies had, and they're across the country, right, where they were taking up millions and millions of square feet of space. They don't really need that anymore. But like you said, there's a lot of organizations that are mid-tier that still have anywhere from 20 to 100 employees, and they need to be able to have those employees come in and use formal spaces from time to time. And when they do, it needs to look like an office space. And even at home, for instance, you still want your employees to be in a remote space that still looks like a business space. I'm curious, with Cadnetics, do you all touch residential spaces as well?
Yes, we do. I mean, not so much as the home office. I mean, a lot of it, but I know that's coming. But like you said, with our people, one of the things we had to do is, because everybody wants to work from home, right? And that's the problem. But what we do is we make sure our employees have to take a picture of the area they're going to call their home office for us. We got to make sure that it checks the boxes of being productive, because we deal with a lot of drawings. They got to lay out. I mean, all of our people use 3 monitors, so we don't want them working off the couch or off the kitchen table. So building out those home office spaces is very important if you're going to allow that type of work environment. So we're very keen on and pay a lot of attention to, okay, we're happy to have you work at home, but let's make sure you have the proper environment to be productive, not only for Cadnetics, but for our clients.
Oh, I love that. And I think that kind of pays forward to the brand that you represent, right? You're taking, large scale pictures, laser pictures, drawings of, these $1 million properties that are gorgeous, type A buildings. Why in the world would you allow your employees to work in, the back of a garage, the bottom of a basement? That doesn't represent your brand, Cadnetics, very well. And I think you hit on something really fantastic, which is a great nugget. I always say, watch for the nuggets, folks. So that was a nugget that Jim just shared, is that take a picture of that space and think about how you all can workshop that so it can look like the space. It can represent the space, but it can also be a functional space to really be the space that you need it to be. And I think in our domain, where we would touch that is we want to optimize that space, right? So it has the right ergonomics, it has the right furniture, it has the right lighting, it has the right fixtures and all of that to really make people thrive. So as we're talking about this, Jim, I'd really love you to share a little bit more with our audience. Again, coming from the construction industry, what do you feel? What are you seeing as you feel like the next big corner that we're going to turn when it comes to the built environment and what your clients are asking for, even the kinds of buildings they're trying to construct? What's what's on the horizon? What's the thing that's coming around that we don't even know what to expect yet?
I think what's going to be big is, and like I said, I started touching on it and I never finished that thought, was one of these developers in Pittsburgh, like I told you about the gap between a Regis and an Industrious and your regular lease. He's building out these smaller footprints of suites that are actually creating suites, not just a bunch of individual rooms that you're going to populate as you grow. And then I have a furniture rep that, people are already starting to build and create those flexible wall systems, right? Because one thing in construction that we're seeing, if you can provide the flexibility to rearrange spaces, and especially in a shared office environment, and be able to not get into full blown ripping out walls and studs and rebuilding drywall and painting. And you could put up wall systems that you can interchange quickly.
Mhm.
I think that's a major impact on where this country is going. As far as I think the key thing is, we need that. Me, when I'm putting on my my tenant hat, I need that flexibility, right? Because I don't know how I'm going to grow in each city, and I need that flexibility in my lease. I need that flexibility in the space, and the more that the owners and developers can, actually, pay attention to that, I think that
Yeah.
benefits a lot of people, because I think that's a lot. I mean, even a perfect example, we're decreasing our space 75%, because I used to have 30 people working in our Pittsburgh office. I have 4. So why pay for all the space? And none of them want to come back. Some of them want some hybrid. So, and the person that's taken over my space was in 75% bigger space. Their space was 4 times bigger, and they're coming down to my space. So I see a lot of people going from those 10, 20, 30,000 square foot floor plates down to a fourth the size, a half the size, just
Yeah.
because it's just, so the flexibility that people can create and make a lot of these buildings be flexible suites and use some of these products. And even like you and I talked about with furniture, that
Yes.
especially if they're providing the furniture and you make it very, ergonomic to be functional and comfortable and for people's health and well-being, I think that's huge. Because I think we talked about that before. Everything gets lost. We see it, and you and I talked about the hotels, and you even see it at the Regis's and stuff. When you look at them, they're just basic desks. There's no thought going into those at all.
No, and it's the same brown, black, gray,
Yeah.
vanilla colors that they've been using for the last 50 years. And yet we've gone through so many iterations in other parts of industry, in life in general, and yet furniture hasn't iterated. So I think it's prime for disruption, right? Post-COVID, people are looking for that. They want to be electrified. It was interesting. I think I was reading a magazine, some sort of interior design magazine the other day. And in the interior design, they had pink file cabinets. And I'm sure you've seen the plant walls. And I was like,
Yep.
wow, talk about a color pop. But again, it enlightens the senses, right? It wakes you up. It invites you into the space. And that's what people, inhabitants, occupants are really looking for in the spaces, to really make them feel alive and to thrive in those spaces. They're tired of the brown, black, vanilla shell. So
Yeah.
I'm curious. So 2 questions that are coming up for me with regards to Cadnetics. First of all, how did you get started with it? Because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs that do listen to our episodes. How did you even get started with it? And what is it that helps you continue to innovate? Because as I've listened to you talk before about your company, you've iterated from the scale model or the drawing model, right, of architecture, to going out and taking these 3D incredible pictures, using drones to take pictures of buildings before the bulldozer hits the ground, so people really know what they're getting to. So what went into your innovating of Cadnetics?
I think, me personally, I've always had a passion for technology. And even as I evolved, because I hate to say I'm an old timer, but I started out doing board drafting. The CAD systems didn't exist when I started in this field. And the reason I got into it is because I love drawing and I was good at math. So when I was picking a career, I saw drafting, and that's how I got involved, because I wanted to do something where I can draw and I could take advantage of my strong math skills. And I went to a high school, tech school, and that's where I kind of started. And then it evolved from engineering, and I really had a passion for architecture. And then when the CAD systems come out, it was something new and it was exciting to do something different. And then where the CAD systems started back then, because when I started on CAD, it was 2 floppy drives. There was no mouse. There was 8 commands, a black and white monitor. It's an old Texas Instruments system. But then again, going from board drafting to that was a big evolution, right?
Yeah.
And so now you see where the CAD systems are and the technology is now. And it's wonderful. So what I love doing is I love attending national conferences. I love keeping the my hand on the pulse of, or my finger, I should say, on the pulse of where technology is going. And we've been able to, well, what's made Cadnetics very successful is we've been able to identify the next great thing in technology and jump on it. Not, I always say, I want to be on the cutting edge, not the bleeding edge. So we're not the ones out there, paying the price to figure this out. We're seeing people figuring it out, and we're jumping on it before most other people. And we've done that with laser scanning. We've done that with BIM, and we've done it with some of our visualization stuff that we've done, ahead of time. So that's kind of what keeps me excited about running a business. I got a team that does all the work. I can focus on the vision. I can focus on, the direction, which, as you know, is the most important thing with a business. The CEO needs to be focused on those things and not be in the weeds of their business.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a great gem, be on the end that's actually going to bring in the business and bring in the opportunity. You don't want to be on that bleeding end where you're trying to figure it out and bleeding cash, trying to figure it out. You're absolutely right. And I think we've been able to iterate the same way with Aerobodies, right? You don't stay as a viable business for over 20 years unless you're always looking at what's coming next and really understanding that and understanding what's driving your customer demand. So I think that's a great accolade to you that you've been able to do that. So hats off to you at Cadnetics for being able to do that.
Well, and we're celebrating 30 years in business this year. The big milestone.
Oh my goodness. That is huge. 30 years. Oh, yes. I know. I'm ready for the party. I'm ready for my invite.
Yeah, we're going to invite you guys. We're definitely going to have a party.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So again, going back to the second part of that question, when it came to coming off the table, if you will, or off the drawing table, and then going out and sending drones out, or, sending out these lasers to actually laser a building. I'd love you to describe that. Because I remember when you and I were having coffee one morning at one conference, and you were describing to me how you all actually do that, how you actually take a 3D rendition of a building for your client. What does that look like?
It's really cool technology now. What's funny is we've always taken because you have to use the right tool for the right job, right? Before laser scanners, because they were kind of expensive, when we were first looking into laser scanners, they were over $150,000, $200,000, right? And for us, the type of projects we were doing at that time, which was about 15 years ago, it was just too much money to spend to justify that. Then when Faro came out with laser scanners, they got into the market, they were $50,000 to $100,000. So that was a sweet spot for us that made sense. What we used to do before laser scanners, we would use the handheld lasers. We were one of the first ones to buy, and talk about staying ahead of the curve. I bought it from Sweden or Switzerland, Leica, where they're from. I forget which, I always get those mixed up. But I bought one of the original laser measuring tools that was about 1.5 feet big. It was huge. I ordered it right from the country, and they shipped it to me, because back then everybody was using tape measures, right? So yeah. I got the first laser, and I was using it in Pittsburgh to measure instead of using tape measures. And then we would take the laptops in the field, we would draw while we're in there, because what happens a lot of times when you're writing down dimensions, you forget a dimension doesn't work back, you get back to the office and stuff's not working. And then you have to go back to the site and try to figure it out. We figure everything out in the site. That's what we were doing before. Now with laser scanners, now to train somebody, so that this gets to what you're asking about, what got me into laser scanning, how it works. So I used to train people to be able to manipulate dimensions to make them work and be accurate enough for our clients. But then it's harder, even with the younger generations, to give that training that we can trust them, and we have no way of checking it, to go out and capture the correct measurements and draw correctly. What the laser scanner does now, it sits on a tripod, it spins 360 degrees, and depending on the settings, it can shoot buildings, 10 stories high. It can get detailed down to the wood grain on the table. So the settings in the thing is you can get really, really, really down to 64th of an inch accuracy on these laser scanners on a building. So we know how to set the settings depending on what the deliverable is for our client. So with laser scanners, they sit on a tripod, they spin around, and you capture, depending on if it's an open building, you might be able to set that laser scanner every 25, 30 feet. in a big warehouse. So you can go through 1 million square feet warehouse, and it creates what they call a point cloud, which creates millions and millions of points. So this laser scan, what it does is it shoots out a beam and brings it back, and it measures that, and it documents that into a point cloud. And then you get all these individual point clouds that are gigabytes of data. I mean, they're huge. And then we take that into one of our high-end machines. We register all that data and make it one complete model of the whole building. So, and it looks like the model, but it's a bunch of billions of points. And then we take that data and we import it into our CAD system, and we almost like connect the dots. You kind of slice it and trace it and get it, and then we build our models. And my guys do a tremendous. I mean, we built some extremely detailed models off these point clouds that you could never ever get with tape measures or handheld lasers. So the accuracy and the information you can gather, there's no way you can get that any other way.
That is tremendous. So I have to ask you, what's coming up for me. So I went to this conference last fall that was very much about strategic growth and innovation. And they had basically exhibits of all different types of things that we're planning to see in the next 10 to 20 years. And they had an exhibit of models in 3D that are in the metaverse. So I'm so curious, obviously you love technology. What you just described immediately as you're describing, I was like, oh, that's like the metaverse, like being, in this new environment atmosphere where you can come around and touch it because you see it so well, even though you can't touch it all at the same time. Very much the metaverse. So what is your take on the metaverse as technology, as it helps support a business like yours, and where we're going with that in the future?
Well, it is so funny you mentioned that. We are actually dabbling into the metaverse. We already have some clients. It's an interesting, me being, in my 50s, I can't capture the minds of these younger people that are into this, virtual reality world, living in it. But perfect example, so to answer your question, the metaverse, we can all the metaverse is a bunch of environments, right? They have to create these virtual environments, whether they're fake buildings, they're real buildings, they're fantasy cities or whatever. They have to be drawn and created. That's where we can come in. If someone's trying to create a replicate, a replication of an existing building, say a retailer, and they want to put that into the metaverse, then we can obviously scan that and recreate that for them, and they can apply it in the metaverse. But I heard something very interesting that you're talking about this for the metaverse. So we were talking to someone, and I guess there's a clothing company, a jeans company or something, that you have your avatar. You walk into their store, you see the rack with jeans on. And this is bizarre. Your avatar tries on the jeans, and you see that if you like those jeans and you walk out of the store, it automatically charges your credit card, ships you the jeans. That's I'm like, is your avatar the same? Are you
serious?
Yes. So I'm saying, are they doing a body scan to know your exact dimensions?
Exactly.
So I was so intrigued that, people are doing weddings in the metaverse. But a big thing is a lot of these retailers want to give you that, whether they create this fantasy, because that's kind of cool, right? If you're let's say Dick's Sporting Goods, their stores are kind of okay. They're one of my clients. They're not the greatest looking stores from a, like a wow factor. But if they wanted to create this fantasy sporting thing, that has like baseball fields in it and football fields, and you're trying all this equipment in virtual reality.
You're running the bases, or you're running for the home run. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you can go and buy that baseball bat, or you can go buy that, that soccer net or that soccer ball or whatever. I think that's, for e-commerce, I think that could be huge, right? For people that might want to buy something off it, instead of just looking at a picture of it like on Amazon. That's taking Amazon and putting it on steroids and actually putting people in an environment where they can, quote unquote, experience that product, that whatever. So to me, I'm on the cutting edge of this. I'm not on the bleeding edge. I'm waiting to see.
I love
But
it. But you're absolutely right. And that was the whole idea around this conference I went to, is that they just want you to start to think
yeah,
beyond just your, how your bricks and mortar of how you're doing business. And it's really applicable. The application they showed was a guy who was an accountant, and he has, in order to do his work, I think he does accounting for the aviation industry. He has to have 4 screens up at one time. But in the metaverse, all he has is his desk, a little cute little desk with like a little laptop with his cushioned laptop and his little goggles. That's it.
yeah.
Forget the 4 monitors, forget all that. So, you have to think about, what's the application for my business? I mean, obviously in the fitness and wellness space, having a wellness and fitness center in the metaverse where people can go in and have experiences. Some people are really into having, experiences that are beyond just the human contact, or they'd want to see how they would look or how they would feel about X. It makes complete sense. So I love to hear the fact that you guys at Cadnetics are, you've already started to think about how that would look for you, for clients, and clients are actually coming to you for that.
Yeah, we actually have a company in Pittsburgh that's looking at 3 different points of entry and platforms inside the metaverse. One's a gaming for games. One's like that e-commerce, and I forget what the other one was. And we've met with him a couple times, and he wanted us to build this skyscraper for him that was didn't exist. It wanted to be totally like unbuildable, like no one would design or be able to build that in the real world. But he wanted to do that, and he's trying to raise some funding for his takeoff. And what's funny too is, and now you just reminded me, I got to reach out to the guy in Pittsburgh. Facebook actually, or I guess it's Meta now. Meta actually has a metaverse division here in Pittsburgh. And I met a guy that worked for another company that reached out to me for something else, and then I found out he's working for Metaverse. And I said, hey, we got to talk, because I want to get in with them and say, and help build environments. So one of the big terms that you'll be hearing a lot of in our industry, which ties to when we say the environment, the as-built, you probably heard the term digital twinning. Digital twinning is where you are taking that existing building and you're creating a digital replication and digital twin of that building in the virtual world. So you're creating a virtual model of that building, and then you're able to do a bunch of different stuff, tie assets to it, put intelligence into it, put information into it, and manipulate that model for whether it's facilities management, for the metaverse, for other things. So digital twinning is a huge part of our reality capture group of what we do. But we mainly do it on the as-built for the architects when they're going to renovate a building. But we obviously have the capabilities to take that to a whole nother level with the metaverse, or even this digital twinning, if people are going to use it for other purposes.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, we need to have a sidebar conversation on how we could use it in some of our fitness centers and wellness centers that we run, because one of the challenges that we've had for clients is that, if you've got 30,000 square feet, some of our government sites, huge fitness centers, you can imagine, and they have just loads and loads and loads of equipment that has never been inventoried. It doesn't have an aging schedule, any of that. So to be able to go in and take that, to me, that's an application for this digital twinning, based on the way you've described it. And then now be able to look at that information. It's digitized. You have accurate records for it, and then you can make some real world decisions around it. So that's another sidebar conversation we need to have, Jim.
Absolutely. Maybe see you in 2 weeks.
There you go. There you go. So tell me, as we're rounding out our time together, I'm so curious, do you have any passion projects or anything that you're super excited about in 2023 for Cadnetics, or even for yourself professionally?
Yeah, one thing that we're going to try to do here, that we started it a few years ago, and it kind of got put on the back burner because we lost a person that was building it for me. Is we have a passion for Cadnetics U, right? It's our training arm of our company.
Yes, you told me about that.
And that's going to really be the foundation of all the services, not only internal training to make our staff better, as we bring in new staff to be able to train them better, but it's also training our clients, right? To use the different software and to use it right. I mean, you get a lot of these resellers that offer training, but they're not using the product and the software every day. So but they don't really know how to really use it.
Yeah, they're not the C's, so it's totally different. You're not the subject matter expert.
Yeah, they're teaching you the academic book way of doing things, not the real world way of doing things. That's where we kind of separate ourselves from, our guys use this every day. We know how to use it for the different, disciplines that we serve. And so building that out, building that as a recruitment center for us, and also as a support help center for our clients, because we ultimately have a passion to all these architects that are using Revit now, and which Revit, if for the audience doesn't know, it's the most popular Autodesk CAD software that most architects in the building construction industry is using, especially in the United States. So a lot of people struggle with knowing it well enough to do it right. Mm-hmm. So we want to be able to provide we have a partnership with Pinnacle, which is funny, Pinnacle there, it's Eagle Point. It's called Pinnacle e-learning platform, that we can sell that, and that's all an online learning platform with videos of how to use the software. And then we want to also back it up with one-on-one customized training, on areas that they're stuck in, and have our team really help them through that. And then I want to finish it up with a help desk, where we can, just like IT, you're working on a project and you're a CAD guy on a small firm or whatever, and you're stuck and you have nobody to ask. We want to be able to say, hey, you got the experts here that can really help you go online and help you get through that project. So we want to be able to help all these clients. If they're not using us, that's okay. Whether they use us or they don't, we want to help them succeed on their projects, regardless.
I love that. That is such a great business model. And I love CAD-U, if you can claim that. I think CAD-U would be fantastic. But yes, you're absolutely right. I think there's ways in which you can talk to clients or potential prospects without actually having to be, a direct sale, and it can be indirect. And the education piece is a great way to go about that. I have so loved this conversation. I knew I would. I knew it would be chock full of nuts. So I'm definitely going to leave the window open for us to have you back, because I think there's a couple things to touch on. I'd love to hear about CAD-U and where that's going. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing in the verse. I call it the verse, but
yes, I know. Oh yeah, we're going to find out what we're doing. I'm pushing for that. So Passion Projects is getting into that. There's one other big thing we want to get into is our FM, which is facilities management. We want to develop that division out, where that's now taken after you've built the building, helping those owners and those facilities managers maintain and manage that building throughout the life cycle of that building. I mean, there's a huge opportunity and a lack, because a lot of these maintenance guys are older guys. They don't, and we want to bring the technology and simplify the technology for them so they can achieve what they need to do, because people aren't going to open up sophisticated CAD programs. They're not going to open and be able to manipulate CAD files. So what can we do to make it easy for these guys to manage their buildings? And that's kind of a passion thing for me that I've been wanting to do for a long time.
Oh my goodness, we've got so many sidebar conversations. So that's a definitely area we need to talk about, because we sit in the facilities management space. We don't touch the maintenance management of the building, but we do touch the health and the we touch the healthy, well certified space of the building, but we also touch the wellness components of the building. Yeah. So we interface with facilities managers all the time. So we need to talk about that.
Well, absolutely, because what's funny is our reality capture group is the foundation of facilities, right? Because what happens with most facilities across the country, they don't have accurate, up-to-date drawings of their facilities. So when you're working with inaccurate information out of the gate, you can't pass that on to the architect for a renovation. You can't do, you can't do your square footages. I mean, we're, even using basic Revit, we've been able to help a large university here in Pittsburgh manage their usage, breaking down color code in all their departments for, they have like 30 some buildings on campus, and being able to manage that just with Revit and the drawings, and be able to query, hey, how many square foot do we have in the, in this program? How many square feet do we have in this program? How many square foot is this room? Who's in this room? All that stuff is easy to add because Revit is a database. So you can build that information in there very easily for someone that doesn't want to go and buy an expensive FM program, right? Because we're saying, hey, let's find a simpler, easier way for you guys to get an entry point into facilities management without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's
Yes.
kind of what, the Ohio State universities, Penn State University, all those big campuses, they already have an investment into that. But you got all these smaller campuses, these smaller hospital networks
Yeah.
that don't have this stuff.
No,
And,
not at all.
and we want to be able to help them. And just like you said, if you're working with fitness companies and that have spaces all across the country, to help them organize that, put the intelligence and the data into what's in there and the usage, and even tying, you can do all kinds of different stuff like tie, maintenance schedules, tie, whatever,
Aging schedules,
specs.
inventory schedules. I mean,
Yes.
it's the list goes on. I think about some of the GSA work that we've done. Again, some of these facilities are so old, and they're not going to get rid of them. I mean, a lot of this square footage of space makes up major monumental buildings here in the Washington, D.C. area. Those buildings aren't going to go anywhere, but we certainly need to have a better way forward, an innovative way forward with facilities management. So another reason for us to talk.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the problem we have is like the one thing, and I know you're just, I mean, we have a great group of people in our pinnacle, but I think what I love is, we're here, everybody, a lot of people want to make a buck, right? And they want to make a quick buck. Our thing is, if you build that trust, you build that relationship, and you educate your client, if you can save them money on
Yes.
top of that, that's a win-win-win. And you're building, I'm all about, I tell my clients every time I meet a new client, hey, I don't want to do one job with you. I don't want to try, I want to build a relationship with you, so we're going to be honest. We want to be trustworthy. We want to be reliable. And if you build those things, the rest will just work out.
It's beautiful. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I knew it would be. You are such an innovator and a creator, and it's great. I'm hoping that if you were listening, you grabbed the nuggets that Jim talked about, from the metaverse to how you can actually take your bricks and mortar organization and turn it into a university. I love that one, Jim. I may steal that one. I love that one. And then also how you iterate for this new year, what you're taking. You've got a brand new logo up. So those of you who are watching us on YouTube, you see their brand new logo. You need to slide to the side so they can see the full thing. Cadnetics. There you go. Slide to the side. But please take a look at Jim. How can people find out about you? So again, we're in the fitness, wellness, health space, and we do have facilities managers in our network. So if people are interested in learning more, how do they find out about you, Jim?
They can go right. I mean, the easiest thing, like to make it easy, is the website, right? Cadnetics.com. And if you go to cadnetics.com, there's ways to reach us. You fill out a form, or our phone number's on there. That would be the easiest thing to do, is look at, go to the website. You can see more about some of the projects we've done. And if there's anybody that would love to know more about my service, that would be awesome.
Thank you all. Thank you, Jim. And thank you for listening to the Optimized Workplace. And remember, it's always about one monumental mini movement at a time. I'm your host, Fran Dean Bishop. Have a fantastic afternoon.